He used to love the mornings, the smell of coffee, the sound of the oven warming, the quiet before the world woke up. For George, mornings were once sacred, the time he felt most alive. But somewhere along the way, that lightness disappeared. The mornings grew heavy. He'd wake before sunrise, but instead of energy, he felt a deep fog pressing on his chest. His knees ached, his breath felt shallow. The oven that once glowed with life now sat cold and silent. Doctors called it normal aging, but deep down, George didn't believe losing himself this way was normal. He missed the man who could lift a bag of flour without pain. He missed the quiet joy of baking bread for his wife on Sundays. He missed feeling awake, not just conscious, but truly alive. It wasn't depression, not really. It was something smaller and deeper, like his body was whispering for help, but no one could understand its language anymore. And then, one morning, while searching for a screwdriver in the back of a kitchen drawer, George found something else instead. A small notebook with a cracked spine and flour stains along the edges. His mother's handwriting, faint but clear. On the first yellowed page, 5 simple words. Morning bake for strength, 1978. He almost laughed. Could a forgotten recipe, when his mother swore by 40 years ago, really mean anything now? It sounded ridiculous, but something inside him, the same quiet instinct that once told him when the bread was perfectly done, whispered back, "Try it." He didn't know it yet, but that small decision to turn the oven back on would be the moment his body began to remember how to heal. The notebook smelled faintly of cinnamon and thyme. Every page was a window into his mother's kitchen. The sound of wooden spoons, the warmth of Sunday mornings, the laughter that rose with the smell of bread. Back then, she called it the morning bake. Nothing fancy, no sugar, no frosting, just oats, seeds, and a spoon of something she always kept in a small glass jar by the window. A creamy, slightly tangy liquid she'd stir into the batter. She used to say, "This wakes up your strength before the day even starts." He smiled. It sounded like one of her old superstitions, but for a reason he couldn't explain, that line stayed with him. Eat it warm before the sun fully rises. He could almost hear her voice again, not as memory, but as something alive, a whisper from a time when food was medicine and the kitchen was a place of quiet healing. He had everything except one thing, the fermented milk his mother always mentioned. She used to make it herself, milk left overnight in a warm cloth, turning gently sour by morning. Now that seemed ancient, almost forgotten in a world of fast breakfasts and sterile cartons. What he found surprised him. Scientists today calling it kefir, a natural probiotic rich in living cultures that feed the gut, strengthen immunity, and balance energy. It wasn't superstition after all. It was science, long before science had a name for it. So he decided to make it, not for nostalgia, but for curiosity. He wanted to know if his mother's quiet wisdom still had a voice in a world that had forgotten how to listen. For the first time in years, his kitchen smelled alive again. Warm, tangy, slightly sweet, like the memory of a life he'd almost lost. That morning, as he stirred the batter together, oats, seeds, honey, and that spoon of warm, fermented milk, something shifted. It wasn't just a recipe. It was a bridge between who he used to be and who he might still become. He didn't know it yet, but the simple act of mixing those 5 ingredients was about to reawaken the most powerful medicine the body owns, its memory. The morning bake was never just food. It was how the body remembered balance. For the first time in years, breakfast didn't feel like routine. It felt like renewal. But what George didn't realize was that this small ritual was doing far more than just feeding him. It was awakening a hidden network that modern science now calls the second brain, the gut. Inside the gut live over 30 trillion microorganisms, tiny engineers working day and night to break down food, repair cells, and even send messages to the brain. When this system thrives, you feel lighter, stronger, more balanced. But when it falls silent, fatigue, inflammation, stiffness, and brain fog quietly take its place. For decades, scientists dismissed the gut as a simple digestive organ. Now studies show it's deeply connected to muscle recovery, sleep quality, and even balance, especially as we age. After the age of 60, this balance often begins to fade. Not just because of time, but because our modern diets, refined, sterile, stripped of living foods, slowly erase the very bacteria that once protected us. George's mother didn't know the term probiotics, but she understood rhythm. Her morning bake, the oats, the fermented milk, the seeds, created the perfect trifecta: prebiotics to feed the good bacteria, probiotics to bring them back to life, and natural nutrients to help the body rebuild while resting. It wasn't magic, it was timing. Each ingredient worked like an orchestra, awakening the body's inner repair cycle just as the sun rose. He reads a headline: "Nighttime repair and morning gut activity, the hidden link between sleep and muscle strength." He scrolls and smiles. It turns out the body rebuilds most efficiently between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. when the nervous system shifts from rest to activation, and the gut's microbial activity spikes naturally if you give it the right fuel. That means the first thing you feed your body in the morning isn't just breakfast, it's a signal, a message that says, wake up, repair, begin again. And when that message includes real living nutrients, not just calories, the body listens. When people in their 60s or 70s reintroduce fermented foods or natural probiotics, we often see measurable improvements in balance, muscle tone, and inflammation within a few weeks. The gut communicates directly with your nerves and muscles. It's a conversation happening beneath awareness. For years, George believed weakness was just aging. Now science told him something different. It wasn't decline, it was disconnection. The bridge between his gut, his nerves, and his muscles had simply gone quiet. And every morning spoonful was a way of rebuilding that bridge, bit by bit, cell by cell, message by message. The same way the earth repairs itself after a long winter, the body too knows how to heal. It only waits for the signal, the right nourishment at the right time. Healing doesn't always start in the hospital. Sometimes it begins at the breakfast table. George didn't go searching for miracles. He just wanted to understand why his mother's simple breakfast had done what modern pills couldn't. That's when he began to notice something remarkable. Hidden in ordinary foods were 3 quiet defenders, each one designed by nature to protect what time had worn down. The first defender, magnesium, the mineral of calm strength. It fuels over 300 chemical reactions in the body, yet most adults over 50 are unknowingly deficient. Without it, muscles tighten, sleep becomes shallow, and energy fades. But when restored, even in small daily doses, it reawakens nerve function and helps the body return to its natural rhythm. Magnesium is like the body's reset switch. It relaxes the nervous system and allows muscles to recover overnight, something critical as we age. The second defender, polyphenols, nature's hidden shield found in berries, cocoa, and even olive oil. These plant compounds act like tiny repair crews, sweeping away inflammation and oxidative stress. For decades, doctors searched for the secret behind the world's longest living communities. Now, research points to one common thread: a diet rich in polyphenols that keeps blood vessels flexible, the heart strong, and the mind clear. When you feed your cells these natural antioxidants, it's like clearing static from the body's communication lines. Your muscles, your memory, they start working together again. And then there was the third defender, the most ancient and the most overlooked: fermented probiotics. Before refrigeration, before supplements, humans relied on fermentation not just to preserve food, but to preserve life. In every culture, from kefir in Eastern Europe to kimchi in Korea to miso in Japan, these living foods did more than nourish. They trained the immune system. They tuned the gut-brain axis. They kept balance alive. Together, these three defenders, magnesium, polyphenols, and probiotics, formed the forgotten triangle of vitality. Each one powerful alone, but unstoppable when united. Think of them as your body's natural defense team. They don't fight aging, they support it. They help the body age well. George didn't change his life overnight. He changed his mornings, and by doing so, his days began to follow. Because when you nourish your body's three defenders, you don't just slow the clock, you reset it. Nature never stopped protecting us. We simply stopped listening.
At first, it was just a feeling, faint but familiar. The heaviness that once clung to every morning began to lift. The body that once trembled in the cold kitchen now felt steady. Not young again, but alive again. Healing didn't arrive like thunder. It arrived in whispers, in the way his steps no longer echoed fatigue, in how his breath carried a little farther each day. The science said the gut was speaking to the brain, but to George it felt like something deeper, as if the body had been waiting for permission to remember. He remembered her voice, her hands moving with purpose. "Feed the body," she used to say, "and it will feed your life." For decades, he thought strength was something you had to chase through exercise, medicine, or willpower. But now he understood strength had always been inside him, quietly waiting to be nourished. When the body starts receiving the nutrients it was designed for, the gut, the brain, and the muscles begin communicating again. People often report this not just as physical recovery, but as emotional clarity. It's the body remembering how to feel whole. He began writing small things each morning, not about what he'd lost, but what returned. Little victories, written in shaky handwriting, each one a quiet declaration that life, in all its fragile beauty, was still his to live. Every cell carries memory of movement, of light, of balance. When nourished, the body doesn't just recover, it remembers. The same body that once trembled now steadied his steps. The same hands that once shook now brewed his tea. The same heart that once carried fear now carried gratitude. This wasn't about turning back time. It was about returning to himself, because the body, when given what it needs, never truly forgets how to heal. Every sunrise is a second chance. Start with one small change and let your body remember.
Every morning begins the same way now, not with rush or pain or noise, but with stillness. For years, George believed balance meant control, counting steps, tracking calories, chasing numbers. Now he knows balance isn't something you chase. It's something you create, one small ritual at a time. What began as a forgotten recipe has become a way of life, not a cure, but a connection between body and mind, between nourishment and peace. Balance doesn't come from perfection. It comes from listening to what your body needs, to move, to rest, to feel, to begin again. The most powerful healing changes we see aren't dramatic. They're quiet. Better sleep, steady energy, a lighter mood. When the gut, the heart, and the mind realigned, the body follows. That's what true balance looks like. Science may describe balance in terms of cells and signals, but to George, it feels simpler. It feels like gratitude for the mornings that now greet him, for the strength that never truly left. There's no finish line, no perfect body to reach, only the quiet rhythm of living in harmony with time, with nature, with yourself. Because the body remembers how to heal, the heart remembers how to hope, and every sunrise is another chance to begin again. Start your morning with balance. Feed your body, calm your mind, and let the day take care of the rest. If this story touched something in you, maybe it's time to listen to your own mornings. Start small. One mindful meal, one calm breath, one moment to remember what your body is still capable of. Because healing doesn't begin with a miracle. It begins with awareness. And sometimes all it takes is one sunrise to start again. If you believe in living in balance, in nourishing your body and your peace, join us. Subscribe, share this story, and be part of a community that's learning to age with grace, strength, and gratitude. Start your own morning of balance. Subscribe for more stories of healing, hope, and renewal.